Welcome to the Supported Living Property Podcast with your host, me, Lisa Brown, the place to learn about supported living property investing. Hi Max, it's great to have you here today. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on. You are the first person that I've appeared on their podcast with my new snazzy headset, so I'm looking forward to the crisp output of this.
It does sound good. It does sound good.
I feel like a football referee, or like when you see in the boxing and they've got the people in the headsets with the thing on. I feel like one of those today.
It does. It looks really impressive. So yeah,
Thanks.
well done. Well, thank you. That's great. We're glad to experience the technology. For people who don't know you, Max, do you want to introduce yourself and tell people a bit about you?
Yeah. So hi, my name's Max Rayner. I'm not actually on loads of podcasts. I've been on a few, but I do think quality over quantity. Don't you think, Lisa?
Yeah.
So
just select the best.
Yeah, just select the best ones. I've just turned 28 about a week ago. Started in property 11 years ago. I became an accidental landlord. My father passed away, and my first sort of seed into property was me and my sister inherited his house. He had a one-bed house and we rented it out, and that was about all I knew for a while. Fast forward to 2017, I set up Stuart Clinton Property Limited with my business partner, and the reason it's called Stuart Clinton Property and not got my name in it is because my best friend from school, Alex, his dad passed away as well. So Stuart is my dad's name, Clinton is Alex's dad's name, and it felt fitting to name the business after the two guys that really were the reason that we got into property in the first place, not solely for a tiny cash injection. We didn't start with a lot. I'll put that one out there. But the why we wanted to live an alternative lifestyle and do the things that we're doing. Stuart Clinton Property started in 2017 after formal property education. We then started on the HMO mission, like pretty much everyone does when they realize that you can make more money than a buy to let. So we started on HMOs, not slagging them off. They're great and they've done great things to me. And I know other people that are absolutely killing it in that industry. So not slagging it off, but it does appear to be the first thing that everyone gets into. We didn't have a passion for it really. So fast forward to 2020, we got into supported living and care because it really resonated with who we were, what we'd been through. And we then had a real fire in our bellies to provide the best properties we can for people. So since the turning point of the business in 2020, that's where we've been focusing. And our goal is to house 200 vulnerable people by 2025, which is a big goal. It's about 45 units a year-ish.
Yeah, that's a big goal, but I love it. Brilliant.
There's no point in we've smashed every goal that we've set so far. So it needed to be bigger this time.
Fantastic, and what a great goal.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you said you got into sort of supported living and care in 2020. Tell us a bit more about that and what that looked like and what happened.
Right, so 2020 was the lockdown, the COVID year, and I remember I was working from home at the time. I didn't have a little snazzy office like this. I call it a little snazzy office. It's not a big one, but it does what we need it to do. I just saw we only had HMOs, working professional HMOs at this point, and I could see, there was a few people slipping up on rent, and there was people leaving. We had the most amount of rooms vacant, and I was already getting pissed off. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, you're allowed to.
I was already getting a bit pissed off with the support, the working professional HMO style, because we were spending a lot of money on high-end property, and people just weren't treating them to the standard that we would expect them to be treated to. We were spending a lot more money on repairs. The churn was very high, and then added with lockdown, I just didn't think the business was robust enough. I thought if we were to go through this again, could we hack it? Because it got to the point where Alex and I really sacrificed our salaries to just make sure that the business stayed afloat, and everyone was paid, but everyone got paid apart from us really. So we started looking at all. So we were already a bit annoyed, and a bit sort of fed up with HMOs at that point. And then we started to look at alternative ways of letting our properties out. And that's where we first started to look at the supported living and care sector, because you can have any size of property and any type of property, which not many people realize, for supported living and care. But the HMO model seemed to be quite a popular model to start, or there was very little adaptations, would I say, that we had to make to our properties to make them suited to supported living and care. We liked the fact that we were entering into leases. So that was the big benefit for us, because it was guaranteed income, and it was the same amount every month. Whereas obviously when you've got HMOs, you can go into cash flow issues, because you could have some big expenses some months and you never know what's definitely coming in until it comes in. So we enter into full repair and maintenance leases, which basically means that all of the bills and maintenance of the property are handled by the tenant, be it a care operator or a housing association. And then we get the same amount of rent every month, no matter what. And we liked that because
it's a great result, isn't it? When you've been used to managing HMOs and you've got, like you talk about that churn rate. I think that's one of those things, isn't it? That when you're never told about when you get into HMOs. Oh yeah, it's great. Look at this big profit. But actually an empty room for a few weeks pretty soon eats into your profits, doesn't it? Yeah.
What I will add, so we got into it at the beginning, and it's like everything when I think you find your passion. We got into it at the beginning for the money. So the sole reason was we need to protect our cash flow. We need to make some more money. How do we do it? Right. And then we quickly realized, once we started speaking to care operators, and we actually went on tours around a lot of different types of supported living and care properties, be it residential care homes. I saw some supported living sites, and I actually got to see the spec and how happy the people were that lived there. It then quickly became about, crap, there's actually like a bigger purpose here than just ourselves making money. And then it, like, all these feelings came up with, the mental health issues that Alex and I had gone through as young adult males, losing their fathers who, are like your role model. And we have definitely grown up with a sense of no direction. We've not really had anyone show us what to do. Property is a new sort of venture for our family names. No one's really done it before, and we've just had to go out and do everything ourselves and figure out life by ourselves that most guys would learn from their dads, right? And that was where we quickly sort of restructured the business and set our goals. And you'll hear us talk about, we talk about the amount of people that we're going to help as opposed to how much money we're going to make. And not many people talk about that in property. Most people set monetary goals. And the reason we don't is, and look, of course, we're not living in fairyland. Of course, we know how much we need, and we've got like a solid business model behind us, because you need to know that. But we just know that if we do a good job and we house 200 vulnerable people by 2025, money will be the byproduct of doing a good job. So we don't have a big financial goal. We have a person goal, because then it's passion driven, and we are really, really dedicated to helping people. And if we help the people, then we'll have a successful business. And that's how we view it, as opposed to going, oh, I need 15 properties cash flowing this every month, and blah, 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 because I think success truly comes from when you follow a passion. And probably the reason you've invited me on actually is because we have just opened 2 new care homes and have been putting it over social media quite a bit, that we're really proud of. And they were tough. They were really tough.
Tell us a bit about those. So what kind of properties are you talking about? So, you talked about your HMOs. Were these existing HMOs that you've then repurposed for care providers? Is that, or are they new properties that you've brought in?
New properties. So sorry, our current portfolio is still HMOs, funnily enough. And actually it's important to keep the diversity. So we probably will keep the HMOs that we've got. I think they're definitely easier in the exit later if you needed to sell. A HMO is definitely, well, I think a HMO, from my experience, a HMO is easier to sell than like an empty care home or like a older care home. maybe not necessarily, but that's probably, I just like having that resi stock and then the commercial stock.
I think diversity is always good, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting. So you're talking about these being care homes rather. So tell us about the properties. What do you mean when you're who's living in the properties? What do you need to do to the properties?
Sure. So we found our tenant first. We got really close with a few care providers in the Midlands. For us, it was about the people from the beginning. So we needed to be comfortable with them. We went to view all of their or most of their stock that they had to see the sorts of care that was being provided. And then we said, hey, well, what do you need? And they say, well, actually, we need this at the moment. There's lots of demand here. So that the need at the time was for women, young women with mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And this care provider were on the framework for the council that were being passed all the referrals from there. So, but he didn't have the property. So we then got his specification and we basically went shopping for the care provider. That's how we did it. So we picked up 2 properties, actually, one post-auction, one pre-auction. One of them, the larger one, was a 14-bedroom student HMO that had been converted from a old B&B because it was right by the station in Coventry. Mm-hmm. And the other one was a 4-bedroom end terrace Victorian house with planning for a HMO. Right. And these both needed planning permission. We needed to convert them into C2 as they would need for the type of care that was being provided. It needed to be C2, but so they were classed as residential care homes.
And that's where it's different from some of the supported living, because a lot of the supported living keeps that C3, that residential classification, doesn't it? But
it falls under the same umbrella of the types of people that are going to be in there, but it really just falls down to the type of care that's being provided and how much care is being provided. So in these instances, there's 24-hour care. There's staff on site 24/7, and there's an office for staff on site 24/7. And
I think the other thing that's different, Max, if I'm right, is the tenancy arrangements with the tenants in there.
Yeah, so
with the care home, that's what's different.
Exactly. So so supported living, there will be a housing association in place, whereas for this, it's a triangle between us, the care operator, and the council. So the council refer the tenants straight to the operator, and then we have a lease with the operator. Whereas quite often you'd have a lease with a housing association or an RP or what. They're both the same thing, aren't they? Right?
Yeah, that's right. An RP is a registered housing association. Really,
So and then the care operator is secondary. So in supported living, what that basically means is that the care operator can change if the tenant's not getting along with them. Whereas in our instance, it will remain the same operator and the tenants will come and go. I think it tends to be a bit more of a shorter term of living, because these people enter like a life skills program, and then basically the idea is to get them out into supported living, which would be the next stage, which hopefully we can then complete. That's our next sort of
okay, brilliant. So
we'd like to do the full circle.
So
what we liked, and again, you have to have an exit plan with all of these. We needed planning permission, and everyone knows that planning permission is not guaranteed, and how long it takes is as long as a piece of string. First of all, because we were doing HMOs and we knew the market very well because we were doing them, and we'd learned from our mistakes, and we kind of knew, okay, this is what we need to do to stop churn and up rents and get better people in and whatnot. So they all stacked up as HMOs, and they didn't need planning for that. One of them had a planning for it already in place for a 7-bed. The other one already was. So our fallback was to do HMOs, but then the numbers were a lot better as a care home, and obviously, they were riding on our mission, which was to help house vulnerable people, which you're not going to do in a HMO unless you go into like LHA stuff. But yeah, that's our idea is being hands-off investors as well, because the company is really twofold. It's to help other people, but it's also to fulfill our own lifestyles that both of our fathers didn't get to live, which is, having the freedom to work and play whenever you like. Managed to, but also, what gave us the confidence to buy these 2 properties is we got an agreement for lease in place with the care provider before purchase, so that just gave us the confidence to go and buy it for them. Although we didn't have to do that because they did work as HMOs, but it just gave us a little bit more certainty to do so. So yeah, we created the 14 bed turned into an 11 bed. Every single room we create, we ask ourselves the question, would we live in this room? So the 11 bed could have become a 12 and potentially a 13, but they wouldn't have been big rooms, and we want them to be sustainable and we want the tenants to be happy. So we decided to do it as 11 large rooms with en suites. When I say large, they're all 12 meters squared and above every room, not including the ensuite. The en-suites are extra.
Yeah.
And the same with the smaller one as well. So that had planning for a 7 bed, and we actually kept it as a 6. But the care operator's happy. The commissioners from the council have been round and love it all. So to us, that's good. And the fact that they met our numbers as a 6 and it met our numbers as an 11, as opposed to like a 7 and a 12, 13, you know, why push those boundaries further when you can cause issues down the line?
So, and also, a lot of the operators want a bit more communal space. Like, was that?
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, so they both have. So the 11 bedroom has a very large living area. That's probably our favourite photo. There's pictures of that on Instagram of the massive sofa and the TV, and it's designed really well. It's almost, it wouldn't be much different to your own living room at home. Like, we love it. And then it's got a separate dining area again, which is large. And then they have ample communal space outside. So we've built like a shelter, we've built a massive garden. I can't remember the square footage because it was just car park before.
Right.
So we provided them with that. Then the other one, the smaller one, we actually decided to build an outbuilding. So they have an outbuilding space. They've got communal TV room upstairs, and they also have a kitchen diner. So we try and really, push all that. And we would have had to sacrifice some of that if we made it into a 7 bed, but we decided not to. So it hasn't been easy,
quality, isn't it, Max?
Yeah, exactly. But that's where this industry is going, and we want to set the precedent as being known as a company that isn't just churning these properties out, but we actually care. So quality is one of our highest goals for every property, as well as room sizes and basically quality of life these people need to have, right?
Really, really important. So you had to get this T2 planning. How was that? Was that fairly smooth process? Was it bumpy? How did you find that process?
Yeah, it was all right. It was okay. One of them flew through. You don't realise the amount of surveys that need to be done that are just like unnecessary in our opinion. But
tell us, what kind of surveys were they then? What kind of
what did we have to do? We had a guy do a parking survey on one of the properties who basically stood outside for 3 nights counting cars. Even though, it's in the city centre, you're walking distance to everywhere. That one was just, I felt, was common sense, but there are tick box exercises. The other one had to have a noise survey, even though it was already being used for 14 people and we were dropping it down to 11. So we were actually doing a favour. And so that one needed a microphone in the house and outside, which it all passed. We had to do an air pollution survey. So I guess they're all standard practices, but they're just things that we were like, as people that have decided that we're going to change the direction of the company, and you never needed it for HMOs. And the fact that, I don't know about you, but every single survey these days seems to be £1,000. Like, you can't get a cheaper survey than £1,000.
Yeah.
So there was some surveys that needed to be done. And putting in electric car points and all that, which is it's fine because we know that the sustainable side's not a problem, but it was just some curveballs that we probably, from the real side of property, that no one really talks about, but you get hit with them until you do them.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, when you're talking logically about that being going down in number of tenants in the property, already having planning for that number of people. It's not like you were taking something that was an office block and converting it, So I can understand your frustration with it, absolutely. But you did get the planning and that all.
We got the planning, we did all the surveys. Fantastic. And one of them was quite easy. One of them came through really quick. By the way, we did both these projects in 6 months from purchase to completion. So we smashed it with that. The one went through with flying colours. The other one put us to squeaky bum time because we were on bridges with these purchases. And we decided there was that tipping point where we were fully committed to C2 and we were like, this isn't going to be a HMO anymore, because we could have just stopped when the refurb was done for ages and we were waiting on the planning.
Oh, okay.
We got to the point where we're like, right, this is definitely going to be a care home now. The planning's gone through for one. It should fly through for this one. And the guy from the council was just taking absolutely ages to get back to us. And we were like, what's going on? Not answering our calls, not answering our emails. So he'd taken our application to a point and then all of a sudden told us that he was leaving the council. So he would have known for that whole 6 weeks. He basically lost us 6 weeks because he would have known, and he instead of passing it on to someone, he just dragged it out. And then the guy that we worked with on the last one jumped in and he was great. So
okay, that's good, having that good relationship.
Yeah,
that's important.
So the planning wasn't too hard. I think where we struggled and learned most of our lessons on this is from the refinance side. Lenders don't, for some reason, lenders don't really like these types of properties, and they certainly won't refinance to the same levels as you can with resi and HMOs and stuff like that, which we did know. But even when we were looking down at the 50% loan to value stuff, there were so many hoops that we had to jump through, so many banks messing us around. There are a handful of specialist banks, and even those guys can be tough to deal with. So that was a learning curve for us.
It's a continual frustration. I know I talk about it all the time. You'll have heard me bang on about it, Max, but it's a continual frustration for me as to why this is such a challenge. And I think it is beginning to, I think we're beginning to see the tipping point of some change, and I'm hoping that over the next few years it will become much better. I agree. Think the more we talk about it, the more people will think, oh, I don't have a product for that.
But the amount of times I've bumped heads with underwriters and brokers and relationship managers of the banks who all agree with me. I'm like, at the end of the day, providing you've got a solid, because I think their issue is the provider solid, and they do a lot of due diligence into them. But if the provider's solid, and you've got a lovely long lease, and the providers have provided you with all their accounts and their company's house, and everything is ticking a box. This is less risky than doing a HMO. Why on it baffles me. The money's pretty much coming from the government in one way or another. These people will not get kicked out on the street, even if the operator went bust and there was a bit of commotion. They will get replaced by another operator. These people won't just get booted out on the streets. No. And the banks keep thinking, well, if you default and we pull your loan, then we're basically kicking these people out on the streets. But it won't happen, because there'll be someone else that comes in, and I'm sure you've had the same conversation.
I bang the other part of it. Why is, I classically say this, the young man with learning disabilities in one of my properties, why is he more vulnerable than the single one with 3 small children in one of my other properties? But the banks view the tenants very differently, and they talk about reputational risk, and like you say, it's something we won't solve overnight, but the more we talk about it, the more hopefully we'll start getting some change into the space. But you're right, it is something to highlight and for everyone to be aware of it, because it is such a big issue. Do you have any other advice or tips or anything for property investors looking to come into this space, Matt?
I do. I think you need to get educated for sure, if you want to save a bit of money and a bit of stress. We actually met through your supported living gateway, Lisa, didn't we? And Alex and I reached out to you and decided to join, but we joined mid-project. So there was we were going through the stresses of a project and trying to play catch up, but we definitely took some golden nuggets, and you guys helped us massively.
That's lovely.
But there was a bit of self-taught stuff at the beginning, and there was some stuff in hindsight that if we'd have known, it could have saved some hassle for sure. But I do think it's an industry where you need to do it right. So don't come in thinking about the money. Come in if you genuinely care for people and you've got a passion, and you want to create good properties for them, then you will make money. But if you come in with the money mindset, I think you're going to get frustrated, because you do. I think you do. If we look at our deals, we make a better return on these properties than we do on our private sector stuff. But we have to jump through a lot more hoops. So they've been more stressful to do than HMOs. But if you get them right and you're in it for the right reasons, then the reward is 10 times, because we now can proudly say that last year we had a portfolio of HMOs with like working professionals that were just annoying us. We now have 2 care homes of 17 vulnerable people that didn't have a home before. And that feels a lot more, I feel a lot more proud saying that, and a lot more that, like, half of my reward is that in itself, you know?
Yeah. It's something to be really proud of, isn't it? And it's making a real difference to people. And
definitely.
That's what's so powerful about it. Thank you, Max. It's been great.
No problem.
Today. Thanks ever so much. Bye.